Hello and welcome to this particular episode of Captains of Industry. In this particular episode, we are joined by Ron Weiss, who is the CEO of Rwanda Energy Group, and he will share plans of the country to achieve 100% electrification by 2024. Thank you so much for creating time to speak to us. Now, as we dive into this conversation, we'd like to first understand your early beginnings before we even get to know how you got into the energy sector. What were your childhood memories like?
Okay, thank you very much, Fiona. My name is Ron Weiss, as you said, and all my life I lived in Israel. I started to work at the age of 13. From the beginning I was very interested in technology, so I was doing many kind of things related to energy, to electricity. I was installing different kind of systems. And later on, after graduating the secondary school and going to the army, as it is common in Israel, I started to learn in the university to be electrical engineer. When I finished, I started to work in the utility of Israel, the Israel Electric Company, and I worked there for 27 years until 2017. Then I decided to go to the private sector. And as Rwanda was requesting someone to come and to support the energy sector, I thought it is a good opportunity for me to contribute in Rwanda, in Africa, from the knowledge I gained through all the years that I was working in the energy sector.
Yes, and in all the years you're working in the energy sector, what are some of the challenges that stood out for you as an individual working in this particular sector?
Mm-hmm. So the energy sector, it is a sector that you always have to be online. You have to give answers all the time very quickly because the customers demand and they are right to get very good electricity all the time. So during the years that I was working for the utility in Israel, I was called many times during the night, during the days, to support different activities. I started in the utility in generation. I was working in one of the biggest power stations in Israel for 11 years. Then after that I worked in transmission system and substations. And the last 5 years in the organization, I worked in different projects in Israel and also around the world. So I gained experience in all areas, in all the chain of electricity. And during the years, I gathered so many challenges, but the main one is how to supply the customers all the time without interruption.
Yeah, how to supply the customers all the time without interruption. For that, you had to be on call 24/7. It may have, in a way, it may have been something that is draining, but what kept you moving with all the required things that you had to do, with all the time-consuming meetings and everything? What kept you moving?
I think in Israel and also all over the world, the energy is, you can compare it to the tradition way in Rwanda. Because if you go in Rwanda back to the period of kings, you know that Umuriro was supposed to be kept all the time. There was the king Yuhi that was responsible for the fire, electricity, and it is the same all over the world. So this kept me going, the satisfaction of the people to have Umuriro, to have electricity all the time, to enjoy the development, to enjoy the good life that electricity is bringing. This brought me all the time to be on board and to fix problems and to solve and to create the development that is needed in order to support the customers.
Now, in 2017, you got the call and you had to come to Rwanda and be the CEO of Rwanda Energy Group. What was going through your mind at that time? Was it the first time you were coming to Africa, Rwanda specific?
It was not the first time that I came to Africa or Rwanda, but I came for a few days. I visited Rwanda, I think, twice before, for 5 days each time. I visited Angola one time and Ethiopia. So my knowledge about Africa in general and specifically about Rwanda was very, very limited. I can tell you that I brought in my 2 suitcases so many things that I was preparing myself to everything that is possible, because I didn't know what is going on here. And when I came here, I was very happy to see a country that is committed, to see people that you can easily work with them. The knowledge that I faced in the company, the capacity of the people was much more than what I expected. The commitment of everyone, starting from His Excellency, the government, and also everyone in the energy sector, was much more than what I expected. So after 2.5 years here, I can say it was the best decision I took ever.
It was the best decision. And prior to coming to Rwanda, you are the Senior Vice President and Engineering Projects and Business Developer at Israel Electricity Corporation, or rather. Now, when you joined the Rwanda Energy Group, what are some of the expertise you feel you might have gotten from your previous position, and what are you bringing to the table here in Rwanda?
So I can say that when I only started here, the most important experience was not from my last position, but from positions that I had before in generation and in transmission. Because the main challenge here at the beginning was on the operational side. How to prevent the power to stop all the time and be more stable and more fixed. Later on, also the experience that I had from the last position, it means how to do project. Because my last position, it was project handling. I was responsible for all the big projects of the utility in Israel, building new power station, building new substation, etc. So later on, after we solved some issues at the beginning, this experience was very important and still important to handle the so many projects that we have these days and before.
And we've also seen that now the government of Rwanda undertook reforms in the energy and water sector that led to the separation of energy from water operations. And that's when the Rwanda Energy Group Limited and its 2 subsidiaries were created. Could you tell us more about this move?
It started before my time, the separation of EWASA to 2 companies, one in the energy, REG, and the other one in water, WASAC. I think it was a very good decision. I think it allowed each company to really focus on the challenges that there are in the energy for REG and in water for WASAC. And then we are structured in 3 companies. REG is a holding company. We have one company, EUCL, that is responsible for all the operation and maintenance, and another company, EDCL, responsible for all the new projects. So this 3 company structure allow us really to focus on the important things. So the EDCL is really dealing with all the new projects and all the challenges that you have during implementation of projects, while EUCL is not looking so much on new projects. They are more focused on, we have now a system, how to operate it in the best way and how to serve the customers, to be ready to any calls of challenges and to fix any fault that happened.
Yes, and we also see Rwanda is moving from a developing country to a middle-income country, and we also energy plays a key part of this when it comes to connecting people, when it comes to the infrastructure development, when it comes to even the investments that come in. What are some of the, before we even got to some of the things that are being done for these, what are some of the statistics of the people that are currently have access to electricity, and what is the statistics of people who do not have access to electricity?
Mm-hmm. So at the moment we have 224 megawatt of power, and it is more than enough to supply all customers and all needs at the moment. And in our development plan, we are going to go up to 556 megawatt in 2024. All the contracts are signed. Some of the projects are already under implementation. Others are in the stages of feasibility study and planning, but everything is on track. And we are sure that we will be able to support all the needs in the coming future. For the connection rate, it is at the moment above 50%. Above 50% are already connected to electricity. Part of it to the grid, part of it off-grid solution. It means usually solar power, and solar panels and sometimes small hydro, but most of it is solar. And we have this target to achieve 100% by 2024. We think it is achievable. It's very challenging. It's not easy, but we think it is achievable. We are working with all stakeholders, Minicofin, Mininfra, and other stakeholders to avail the budget that is needed, to set the rules, and to contract the subcontractors that we need for this. But working together, I'm sure that we will achieve this target.
You've touched on it is very challenging indeed. What are some of the challenges, hindrances standing on the way?
I think the main challenge is to avail the budget. If to look on all the needs of the energy sector up to 2024, we need over $1 billion to implement all the project. The big amount is to do the connections to all the houses in Rwanda. So to find the sources and to avail the budget, it's not an easy task. And Minicofin is supporting us with this, and we hope that we will be able to get all this budget, the full budget that is needed to implement all the projects.
How is the investor appetite in the energy sector? Because we know the government cannot do it alone. So are we seeing the private sector stepping up and investors coming on board?
So we are working hand in hand with the private sector, especially in generation. Most of the new power stations will be built by the private sector. The first one is a project of Hakan, P2 Power, 70 megawatt, that will come on board in June 2020. It's a private power plant. We have also a project of methane to gas. We have the existing one, Kilowatt, that is 26 megawatt, it is working. But the new one, it's a project that was called Symbion before, now it is called Shema, 56 megawatt, that is going to come on board. Also, it's a private sector. Also, the hydro project of Rusumo and Rusizi 3 are a project of private sector or project that are being done together with other countries. So the private sector is supporting us a lot, especially in generation. Another field that the private sector is helping us is in the side of off-grid. All the connection, or most of the connections that are done in the off-grid sector are done by different kind of companies. They are going to the client, they are showing them the different systems that they have, and they are connecting them. So also in the off-grid side. In transmission and in distribution, the private sector is not working a lot at the moment. We are working with contractors, so contractors are also private sector, but it is the project we are doing them ourselves, and we are considering also to involve the private sector later on in the transmission and distribution side.
Now, when we look at forecasting future electricity demand in a high growth country, especially in Rwanda, which is very ambitious and has many projects lined out, how would you say REG is positioning itself in order to know the generating capacity as well as the supply on the ground?
So we are following all the time the demand side, and we align our project to the demand side. And we need always to keep more supply than demand. We don't want any investor to come to the country and say, I don't have enough electricity. We don't want to be in this position. So always we will have to be more than the demand. And this is the current situation. We have enough supply at the moment. More factories can come. And when in June 2020, when we will connect this big power station to the system, we will have more than enough. And we will have to continue. We don't want to stop even in 556 megawatt, because we want this country to develop as much as possible. So we will have to find more resources of power. Hydro will be one of them, gas will be another one, renewable from the sun will be the third one, etc., etc. So we are trying to find any resource of power to avail the needed supply in the future.
Now, this is a conversation with Ron Weiss, the CEO of Rwanda Energy Group. Let's take a short break, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll be talking about some of the strategies and policies in place to ensure that there is efficiency when it comes to energy supply here, as well as what they are doing to curb theft. Welcome back. You're still watching Captains of Industry. We are with Ron Weiss, the CEO of Rwanda Energy Group. Now, Mr. Weiss, before we went for break, I touched on that when we come back, we'll touch on efficiency of electricity here in Rwanda and what the Energy Group is doing.
Mm-hmm. So I think about efficiency, we need to look on two sides, the side of the customer and also the side of the network or the side of a reg. From the side of the customer, we are involved together with Mininfra and other stakeholders, how to bring the most advanced and efficient instrument to the country, that the lamps will produce the same amount of light, but with less needs of power. And also other, let's say, refrigerators and other facilities that we are using at home, to use less electricity to give us the same result, the same service that we want. So from this is the main issues from the side of the customer. And from the side of the energy, we are looking especially on the side of planning, especially to see that everything that we are buying will, the losses, the technical losses that we have in the system will be reduced. Buying better transformers, better cables, and at the end that when we produce power, we will reach the customer with most of the power that we produced, and we would not lose anything on the way.
Now, could you please share the country's plans to diversify the power sources?
Yeah, so I think already we have power from many resources, but we are going to face a change in the near future. So we have power now from methane gas, we have power from peat, we have power from solar, we have power from hydro. I think most of it is hydro. So from the side, we are still, the big change that we are going to do is to reduce the use of fuel. These days we are still using a lot of fuel, and it is in our power stations, Jabana 2 and Jabana 1, but also IPP, private power plant that we are using of 30 megawatt, that is called So Energy. And starting with the new power plant in June 2020, we are going to decommission all the fuel power stations. So we want to continue to work with more renewables, more hydro, more solar, and even the use of methane gas. We are going to still use peat because it's one of the resources in Rwanda, but the fuel, the liquid fuel, we are going to put aside from our generation units.
In 2015, the government of Rwanda commissioned the first industrial scale gas-fueled power project, which is the Kivu-Watt, and on Lake Kivu to generate electricity. Could you tell us about the background of that project and how far it is so far and what potential methane gas could possibly have?
So Kivu-Watt is working, and it is producing the 26 megawatt that was expected. And we have more new power plants coming on the Lake Kivu. The next one will be the project that was called before Symbion, and now it is called Shema, of 56 megawatt. It's a project of 56 megawatt, but the contract that we have with them is 50 megawatt, so they have some extra capacity if needed in the future. And this is what is signed at the moment and is going to be built. The lakes still have more capacity for more power plants. But at a certain point, we will have to also consider other resources because methane gas will not be enough. But at the moment, we still have enough and that we can have more power plants on this lake.
How much investment has gone into it already? And as you say, the methane gas still has a lot of potential. And how much more investment needs to be injected in order to maximize the potential?
The investment is done by the private sector. So I think it is better to ask each power plant on the investment they did. But usually the cost of power goes between $1,000 for every kVA that is installed to $3,000 or $3,500. This is the normal investment, but I think for specific investment, it's better to ask the IPPs themselves, the private sector.
And how sustainable would you say is the electricity that we currently have in the country?
So I think I can ask you about this. What do you feel about the electricity these days? I think the electricity is stable. I think, and we are being appreciated by the customers that the electricity is stable. We are not doing load shedding anymore at all. So we have enough power. We have less and less power cuts. Power cuts are part of the system. You cannot avoid it 100% because you have birds, you have rain, you have different kind of weather that usually affect the electricity. So you cannot prevent it 100%. But I think it is very stable. And even people that are coming from Europe, from countries that they used to have good electricity, they are surprised. They are surprised and they see the difference between other countries in Africa and Rwanda for the stability of electricity.
And when we look at the projects by Rwanda Energy Group, how do they fall, would you say they fall in line with the country's green growth strategy, knowing that the country is moving towards environmental friendly and trying to help serve the planet? How do they fall in line with that?
We are producing already more than 50% of the power from green energy. Mostly hydro. Also solar, but mostly hydro. And we are going to increase the renewable energy in Rwanda by decommissioning the fuel power plants and putting in place more hydro and more solar. The percentage of renewable will be increased.
Now, when we look at the losses in the transmission distribution network, as well as theft, how much of an impact is this having on the electricity that is being supplied to the people? And how much of this, and what are the policies in place? What does the law say? What is being done to these people when they are arrested?
So this is still a challenge that we have. The losses are below 20 now. We started of above 23%, and now we are below 20. But we have still a way to go to achieve the targets. The targets of Rwanda is to achieve 15% by 2024, and we are working on this. We still, unfortunately, have people that are stealing electricity, and we are working together with the relevant organizations like police and RIB to address this issue. And this is maybe an opportunity for me to call to all the citizens. We really want you to enjoy the electricity, but we cannot afford, and we will have zero tolerance to anyone that is abusing the electricity and stealing electricity. So I think these days we are catching people even on a weekly basis. And we hope that this phenomena will be reduced and people will really enjoy electricity and pay, because without this payment we cannot survive. This company is a commercial company at the end. We need to do our part. We need to provide good electricity, but also we need the return of investment and to pay the salaries, the materials and everything to run the company.
Now we are in a digital era. How would you say IT is being leveraged for better access, for better connecting with the customers? And is IT something that the energy sector could use?
I think it's a very good question, and it is also related to the last question you asked about the losses. IT is being implemented in all our life, in areas of all our life. And we are using smart meters, for example, and we are using technology to see where are the losses. This is one of the areas that we are using IT. to see where are the losses, how we can prevent them. And this is also a way that we succeed to catch people when they are not using electricity in the right way. So this IT is not only in this area of losses, but in all areas we use high technology, whether it is in power plants, in the protection and running the machines, in the different stations that we have that are called substations, in cabins that we have in Kigali, and also in our offices. We have a very improved technology to do our financials, to do the planning that we are doing. So IT is everywhere, even in the energy sector.
Thank you so much for our viewers. If you're watching from home or even from our website, thank you for your time. We were having a conversation with Ron Weiss, who is the CEO of Rwanda Energy Group, to understand what the country is doing in order to achieve 100% electrification across the entire country. As always, do join in the conversation. You can write to us on Twitter at CNBC Africa for further discussions. My name is Fiona Muthoni, and I was your host. It's bye for now.